What's going on, everybody? You are live with Osiris. Welcome to the Author's Lounge. Now, every episode I tend to say I have a special guest or I have, hey, something special to present. Well, this is a wonderful occasion because the individual who I'm bringing here, I have a great story on how the two of us met, but she has one heck of a resume that I'm going to share, and I feel grateful and honored to be able to have her on my show, and for more of what she represents versus what her accolades speak for. So the purpose of this show is really to bring on guests who are experienced within the world of book publishing, and that doesn't necessarily have to be limited to book publishing, but they can be experienced writers, creators, people in that space that share their experience here for the younger generation of writers. And this can be songwriters, screenwriters, you name it. We're speaking to you guys. We're speaking to you guys. And so that's what the purpose of this is. So our guest has agreed to come on board, and I am going to let me just pull out this fancy. There we go. Bio here because it is nice. But I condensed it because if I read her entire bio, it'd take up the entire show.
Oh,
Yes, indeed. So without further ado, here's the bio that you all need to hear. Our guest is a Grammy Award winner and also three-time nominated Grammy artist and an Indie Music Hall of Fame inductee of Los Angeles, California. Our guest is also a soprano, pianist, songwriter, arranger, keyboardist, composer, and sonic therapist, just to name a few. In addition to winning a Grammy Award, she's also received two Global Music Awards, three Indie Channel Music Awards, and an Intercontinental Music Award. She's performed in front of a worldwide viewing audience of 1.5 billion, that is billion with a B, on PBS as the memorable soprano soloist in the, make sure I get this right, Yanni Live at the Acropolis. Did I get that right?
that's right.
Okay, perfect, cool. To date, our guest has 12 solo albums and potentially another one on the way. I'll let her talk about that later. And has been featured in an additional 12 albums with music artists such as Lionel Richie, Celine Dion, and Whitney Houston, just to name a few. As a singing actress, our guest has been featured in movies such as Sister Act 2, and Spy Hard. Her powerful voice was also featured as a vocalist in the Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets video game. I can go on and on about what her resume looks like, but I think that I'm just want to go ahead and hop and speak to her. So without further ado, I present to you the wonderful, and thank you again for coming on board, Miss Darlene Koldenhoven. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Osiris, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, such a pleasure. It's an honor to be on your show today. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you. You have no clue how like wonderful it is to have this opportunity, and so like accolades and everything aside, how we met was right outside of the hotel in San Francisco. In fact, I was on my way to go meet with my father who was in Chinatown, and you approached me from behind, and we just got into a conversation. We had a mutual love for the military, and you had shared a story with me about the military. So if you don't mind like sharing that story again, or at least briefly,
I
I would
will.
love for them to hear that story about your military affiliation.
Well, my father was definitely a decorated war hero. When he was in the Korean War, he received a Distinguished Service Cross, a Silver Star, a Bronze Star, and a Bronze Star with Valor. For the Distinguished Service Cross, he took his men. They were 5 miles deep over, across the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, into North Korea, and he was fighting. Him and his troops were fighting so well that he led. They didn't. The backup never came.
Mhm.
so, oops, they didn't. Where's the rest? Where's everybody else? I'm just,
Mhm.
way out in front, right? So
Mhm.
backup never came, and the enemy. They were surrounded by the North Koreans, and the only way out, my dad decided. He did this by himself. He took the enemy fire upon himself, and he ran from place to place to place to gather all the troops all over and bring them all back to safety. He saved a whole battalion That's a lot of guys.
Wow.
That's like 1,000 guys. Well, for many hours that day, he was going back and forth, dodging the bullets, taking here I am, shoot me, while the other guys would run. He never got it. He never got a bullet. I think the angels were guarding him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then if that wasn't enough for a whole day, he goes back with two other guys the next day and gets all the POWs out of the place. I mean, it's
Freaking heroic.
mind,
Heroic.
right? Mind blowing. But that was my dad. He was always, he was very athletic also. He was good at sports, but he was only a first lieutenant when he did that.
Mm-hmm.
When he left, he was a captain. They gave him, promoted him to major, and he said, "No, I'm done. I want to be home with my girls." So,
Yeah.
but he
Good on him.
left. I was born, and then he left. He got called back because he did World War One, right? World War Two, and then he got called back 30 days after I was born. So he missed my whole first 2 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came back, it was like, who's this stranger in the house?
Yeah.
Little kid, you don't know, right? So it took a while to, for him, obviously, to get settled. But the annual malaria that he picked up in World War II was really traumatic as a kid listening to it. I mean, 106-degree fever. He's, delirious and shaking the bed 3 feet away from the wall. My mom is changing the sheets several times a day, and he'd have these episodes of malaria for 2 weeks, and it was just horrible because in the delirium from such a high fever, he would be reliving the war and calling out all the commands to these guys under fire and stuff like that. And it was like, wow, I felt so helpless as a little kid. I didn't want my daddy to be sick, but there was nothing I could do about it,
Yeah.
And then he passed away when he was only 41. I was 14 and my little sister was 5. And he passed away from complications from the malaria.
Mm-hmm.
So he was gone too early, but he truly, with our nation's second highest medal, the Distinguished Service Cross, he truly was a hero.
It's such a heroic story, like just being a service member, just being in the service myself,
Yeah.
right? Like it's really admirable to hear such a tale like that of a man who really put his life on the line for people, and he didn't even think of himself,
No.
And many times we hear stories of heroes like that. They're more like myths and legends, but to actually like meet somebody who has somebody like that. The only other person I could think of, like my father, who served in a couple of wars as well, who went through his piece, and he's a hero of mine. But hearing this story by your father is certainly heroic, and just the patriotism it's such a powerful tool, and I believe that to be something just worth noting. So I thank you so much for sharing that and giving people just a piece of your background, of
Yeah.
you growing up. You
Yeah.
had mentioned at 2 years old is when he came back,
Yeah.
but I heard and sir and in my research about you that at the age of 3 is when you began to start singing. So he was there for that moment at the beginning phases of your singing careers. So how was that? How did that it turned into what it turned into?
Well, I'll never forget that because, well, my mom sang and her father was a big singer and his whole family were musical. So when I was 3, I could sing in tune, I could even sing in harmony, all that stuff. So, and my mother booked me to sing on Easter Sunday morning in front of church, right?
Yeah.
So that "Low in the Grave He Lay" was the song, such a song for a 3-year-old to sing, right? I get it. And of course, when you're a kid, you hear it "Low in the gravy lay."
Yes.
But
Uh-huh.
so anyway, I get on the platform and I see 200 people staring me in the face. And what does a shy 3-year-old girl do? I lifted my Easter dress high over my head so no one. And I'm standing there in all my glory, and my mother is sitting in the front pew, and she comes rushing up. "Darlene, put your dress down and sing," I put my dress down. I turned to the organist. I said, "Okay, I'm ready now." And away I go. I sang, and then I was hooked. That was my first, singing in public, and I
Yeah.
loved it. And I made me feel very special.
Hmm.
And I've been hooked and been singing ever since. And since then, of course, I've learned to keep my dress down when I sing in
Oh
public.
yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah.
important. That's my first lesson.
It wasn't a Marilyn Monroe moment or anything like
No,
that,
no. For a few seconds it was, but but not for very long.
No, for sure. No, but the one thing one thing you said that I want to point out is that you loved it and you learned that at such a young age. And I was just speaking to somebody. I was speaking. His name is Jim over at Drafted Digital. And I was talking about the importance of like finding what your gift is and honing in on it. Many times the gift is discovered at a young age, but then parents or however life is. Maybe dissuade the member or the individual, and just life takes its own turn, and then that gift that you were blossoming into just kind of goes away. So it's awesome to be able to hear a story such as the one you're sharing, Darlene, about you at age 3, right? And you're only 21 now. So, but like at age 3, right? It is so remarkable to be able to like discover it at such a young age. And I just want people to really grasp that idea. Like I know that we have authors on here, and I forgot to mention that she's also an author. She has a book, and if you don't mind showing that wonderful book of yours really quick. Tune your voice. So, um, if you want to, can you explain a little bit about your book?
Sure.
And yeah, I'd love for the
Well,
audience to hear that.
because I'm a voice teacher as well, a master's degree and certifications and all that stuff. I've taught over 1,000 people to
Mhm.
sing. I love to sing. I love to share that gift with people. Even people that think they can't sing or people that can't hold the pitch. I can fix that. And there's methods in this book, and I have other methods that
Mhm.
I've helped people to go, "Oh, I can't sing. I sound terrible." Well, I can fix that.
Yeah.
So I wrote the book because I've sung on over 1,000 recordings in movies and records and commercials. So with all that experience, plus my credentials, and my heart just wants to share with people because singing just makes you feel so good. Your whole body vibrates, and
Hmm.
it's good for your lungs and your brain and all that stuff. So I decided to write, Tune Your Voice, Singing and Your Mind's Musical Ear. That's the name of the book. So it's you can sing your way through ear training. So you sing your way through basic music theory. First, there's 7 CDs. Now we have downloads, and parts of it are just the music lessons to teach you the technique of singing.
Hmm.
And a lot of the other parts are to familiarize yourself with music theory and how music is put together and all that stuff. It's a
Hmm.
complete comprehensive program. It was endorsed by faculty from the Juilliard School, Berklee School of Music, American Idol, NYU, and just to name a few. So it was a very, very popular book, and I authored it and I published it. I self-published the book, and I took it around to various music education publishers, and Alfred Music picked it up to distribute it worldwide for me.
Hmm.
But I wrote it and produced it and published it myself. So they got a hold of it and they said, "Wow, this is something you should easily charge $100 for. But
Hmm.
if you want to sell a lot of copies and you want people to get it, let's price it at 49.95, $50." I
Yep.
said, "That's fine with me because my goal is I want to help people. I'd rather
Right.
sell a lot of these and help people." So, and I do all the teaching, the voiceover work. I do all of that myself, and I have to say, people compliment me about their surprise because I do it like a teacher, a live
Yep.
teacher, and very enthusiastically. It's not of like, and now sing like this. No, that's not how it
Nothing.
goes.
No, no, not
No,
even close to it. You
no.
know,
So it's
I
a lot.
love the idea. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, I just said it's a lot of fun to go through it.
Yeah, and I think what's also fun is being able to learn the process of singing. Getting that with your book, and yeah, I was thinking too. Like, oh, easily that's like easily $100 book. But I get the concept of it. People get what they pay for, but you get a lot of quality, and you got to understand like who's behind the book and why
Right.
the price tag is where it is, you're getting a lot that probably costs even well more than $100. But you're getting a condensed and very like well thought out, put
Yeah.
together book. And
Yeah.
now one thing you said too that actually it stood out to me. And I heard this on another interview that you did. And I'm glad you mentioned it. Was you did it on your own? I heard from you on the other podcast that you did is that you were your own manager. You didn't have an agent other than the great
Right.
Lord himself,
Yes,
but you
that's
didn't
right.
you didn't have one. And
That's right.
you how were you able through to achieve this level of success
Yeah.
without actually going the traditional route?
Right. I had never had a manager or an agent. I've accomplished all of it myself. And I think the goal is, I'm from the south side of Chicago,
Hmm.
and I moved to Los Angeles when I was about 28, 29, 28, 28. I think it's a long time ago. But anyway,
Uh-huh.
but I came with skills.
Hmm.
I had my degrees. I knew how to sing. I knew I had, piano, master at piano as well. I came and sight reading. I could read music really well. I could walk up to a piece of music and read it the first time and make it sound like music and record it. I was known as like the first or second take gal, so that helps. I came with skills for one thing.
Hmm.
And the rest, I think, was just like, the universe was looking out for me because I was a music school teacher in the Chicago suburbs. And one day, one of my a second grade teacher in the school where I taught, she goes, you might think about being a studio singer. Well, what's
Hmm.
that? You sing background on people's albums and stuff like that. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that existed because when I grew up, I was only allowed to listen to or sing religious or classical music. And when I was 19, I performed a serious coloratura aria with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra in Orchestra Hall.
Hmm.
And so it just, it kind of built from there. But at that, so the school teacher said, my husband is graduating from law school. Can't you just, put a couple of tunes together and play at his party we're having? I said,
Hmm.
okay, sure. So I put a couple tunes together, Moon River and a couple standards and a couple jazz things. I bought the sheet music and learned it.
Uh-huh.
So I'm playing in the thing, and the guy that's catering the thing is from Jam Productions, which is one of the biggest promoters in Chicago area,
Hmm.
like big time promoters, right? He goes, "Wow, you're really good." He says, "Can I get your number?" Blah blah blah. And I said, "Yeah, this is only the first time I've done this." He goes, "You're kidding me." I said, "No, no." He goes, "Well, you're really good." He says, "Listen," he goes, um, George Duke is coming, the big jazz piano player guy.
Hmm.
He's coming to the Ivanhoe Theater next month. I can get you in to talk to George Duke. Really?
Yeah.
So, okay. So I go, and I meet George Duke backstage during the show. It's on a break, right? His set is done. There's another person going on after him. George's set is done. So I get backstage, no problem. I'm looking around. Oh, George is tall. Okay, great. George is over there. But the room is packed with people.
Yeah.
The band, groupies, friends, family,
Hmm.
fans, packed with people. So I wiggle my way over to George, and I'm standing right in front of him, and I said, "Hi, I'm Darlene, and Jam Productions said, you might be looking for some singers." So he goes, "Well, no," he says, "I have my singers already." He says, "But let me hear you sing." So right then and there, just like that, in the middle of that room, I start ripping into a Minnie Riperton tune with the really, high voice,
Hmm.
Mariah Carey high voice kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? And I
Hmm.
start singing that and doing riffs and all that kind of stuff, and he was like, "Whoa, you
Hmm.
really can sing." I go, "Yeah, I've been known to."
Yeah, for sure.
He goes, "Well, listen," he says, I don't need any singers right now, but Flora Purim is going to come in town next month, and she might need some singers. So fine. Same thing. I told the guy at Jam Productions. He says, "How'd it go?" And I said, "It went great. Now I got to go see Flora." He says, "No problem. I'll get you in." Right. So now I get in at Jam, And I go backstage, and Flora's tour manager, a guy by the name of Jimmy Root,
Hmm.
he says, "What are you doing back here?" And I said, "Well, Jam Productions, George Duke, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "Great." He goes, "Well, I don't know if Flora's looking for anybody." He says, "But do you know anything about orchestration?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." Because he said, "What do you do?" I said, "I sing, I play piano." "But do you know anything about orchestration?" "Yeah, I do." He goes, "Great." He says, "I got somebody back in LA who might, be able to hire you and you can work for him." I said, "Great. Who is it?" "Tom Scott." Well, Tom Scott is famous jazz, saxophone player. And at the time, I knew who he was because I had heard him perform with Joni Mitchell in Chicago, a few months before. And he's like, awesome, right? I was like, "Tom Scott? You mean the Tom Scott?"
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So then I went, that's how I finally, I finished teaching school that semester. I left school one day, and the next day I'm in Los Angeles. And Tom Scott is producing Doc Severinsen, famous, horn player from the Tonight Show band and stuff like that. And so now, just like that, overnight, I go from school teacher to now I'm in with the Hollywood elite. I'm at the top with the top of the top.
Hmm.
And I'm just working in the studios with them they call it the gopher. "Darlene, can you go for this? Darlene, can you go? We're renting him. Can you go get the microphone we rented? Can you go get me coffee?" Whatever. It's the gopher. I was fine being the gopher
Uh-huh.
because I learned a lot. I learned a lot in the studios and how they work and how everything works. And I got to meet so many people, big stars, major stars in the jazz world mostly, And then he introduced me. He was playing some music one night where everybody was hanging out. He's playing some music one night. And he plays me this guy named Claire Fisher.
Uh-huh.
And I listened to the music, and I erupted out of my seat. I go, "Oh my God, that's the kind of stuff I hear in my head."
Hmm.
And he goes, "Whoa, then you got to meet Claire." So
Yeah.
next thing I do, give him, call him up. Here's his number. Use my name as a reference. Call him up. And then a bunch of stuff happened. I got sick. I had to go back to Chicago. It was awful. And then I came back out again, and I met with Claire. And he asked me to start getting some singers together because his record company said, "Claire, put a vocal group with your band." It was Latin jazz music, right?
Hmm.
And the first album we did this tune. He did all the arranging. We did this tune in German over a Latin jazz salsa band music. It was hilarious. It was a German drinking song. "Du liegst mir im Herzen," over this Latin, congas and music and everything. So we did the first album. And so I think I had come to town for good in the summer of 79. And then that was 80. We recorded that, and we got our first Grammy nomination. I think it was 1981. And then we did first album, and we did a second album a year later, got another Grammy nomination. Then 2 or 3 years later, we did the third album, and that's the one that won the Grammy Award. So that's how it happened. So it's like a word of mouth thing, because when I came out and met Tom Scott, he and a bunch of people, his engineer and a few other people were in the room, and he says, "Okay, let me hear you sing." Okay. Now he says, "Let me see how you read music." So he puts piano music in front of me. So I'm like, "No problem, reading the piano music." He's, "Okay, how do you sight sing?" Puts the sheet music in front of me, singing. Reading the stuff down, getting it right, no problem. So he goes, "Whoa." He says, "You are a real musician. You can read and sing and everything." So that's what I'm talking about, getting your skills together. Have a plan, before you make a move out of here. And have a job. Because especially nowadays, it's even harder for young people to come out in the business. You need to have some financial support. And so you need to pick the right kind of job that still allows you to do your dream, at night or on the weekends, right? And allows you, in the case of, in my line of work, is you can get a studio work. You can get called at the last, "Hey, can you be here in an hour to sing on whatever, sure. So you have to have a job that's kind of flexible in that way.
Hmm.
Most often they give you a couple days notice, so you can say to your boss, or hey, somebody, can you switch shifts with me or something like that, for a couple hours or whatever. But that's how I lucked into it, and I got to tell you, that is rare. That never happens to people. I mean, because
Yeah.
I've been living in Los Angeles a long time now, and I've never heard a story like that come out of anybody before. So,
No, that's remarkable too, just to even hear the journey.
angels watching over me. Angels
Hmm.
watched over my dad. I think the same angels are watching over me.
Yeah.
And that's how. But when you show up, like when you do studio work, if you don't do good the first time, nobody's going to call you. You get one shot.
Yep.
That's it. You get the one shot. And so you've got to perform. You got to be on your A game.
No, that's a good point, and it actually makes me want to ask as well. That when we met, we were talking, and you had mentioned that you really loved. I don't want to misquote you, but to summarize it up, what I had stood for and what I represented. But what was it about me that stood out to you that said we got to do something together?
Your vibe, your energy,
Oh,
your
oh,
smile, the way you spoke, you were in command. Your voice projected. We could hear you. We could understand you. I thought already, this guy must have some military because he stands up straight.
oh. Oh yeah.
And you're not like this. You don't like, okay, I can do this and that. No, you've got to present yourself. You've got to know how to present. Military knows how to present,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
That's one of the
Oh,
first
that's
things you're taught. Present.
absolutely. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. You would know it. It's somehow, some way, even in the parents, it somehow matriculates down to the children because you have a lot of discipline, right? You have to have discipline in order to do
Right.
any line of work, but especially the type of work that requires a creative aspect to it
Yeah.
and be able to stick to it. Now, granted, I know you've written a book and you're working on another book right now. As far as like songwriting goes,
Yeah.
and you have a long list of music that you've worked on over the years.
Yeah.
But what I guess as a writer, how do you stay creative and also stay current creating your music as a songwriter?
Well, that's got a little history. Do we have a minute? I could tell you some of the
Oh
history.
yeah, sure. Uh huh.
So I was raised, like I said, only being allowed to sing religious or classical music. I was raised in a Dutch Calvinist household. So ultra strict religious.
Hmm.
Creativity was sinful, believe it or not. And so I had some harsh things happen to me
Hmm.
and daily reminders that, Darlene, when you sit at the piano, you only practice your lesson. You can't just experiment. That was sinful, until I was in college and I was studying the great composers and they all had church jobs. And I came home and I said to my mama, if Bach and Haydn and all these guys wrote church music and had church jobs, they're not going to hell. Why would I go to hell
Right.
if I'm
Exactly.
noodling around on the piano? And she was like, well, that's for them. That's not for you.
Yeah.
So I struggled for many, many years to feel comfortable with creativity and creative ideas and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I was well into my adulthood before I attempted writing music, right? So I took a class in arranging music when I got out to LA, but not composition, not writing music.
I see.
So that I had to garner on my own.
Okay.
And it was difficult because every time I sat down to do something, I'd hear that voice in my head, my mother, you
Hmm.
shouldn't be doing that. It's a sin. You're going to hell, And
Yeah.
quiet down, thank you for sharing, but now go back because I'm doing my thing, right?
Hmm.
So I had to overcome all of years and years of that. So that's how I got to start writing. So when I was doing my studio work, I was working 2 or 3 or 4 sessions a day, 5 days a week. On weekend, I'd be singing with bands, playing for weddings and parties and bar mitzvahs and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So for 2 decades straight, I really didn't have time to be creative. But then I decided, one day I said, I got to start somewhere. So I
Hmm.
just started listening to the kind of music that I really liked a lot, and I started really dissecting what's going on in those tracks.
Hmm.
Being able to hear what the bass is doing, what the drums are doing, what the guitars are doing, what's the
Yeah.
singers doing, all of that stuff. And slowly, with great study, and especially even in jazz, I did a lot of studying, including reading jazz history books and stuff like that, and I listened to all the previous,
Hmm.
because I like to garner all the information from the greats before me,
Hmm.
right? And then take all that information in and turn it into me, so to speak,
Yes.
right? And so
Hmm.
that's how I started. And then again, it's the discipline, because I was always so busy, I had to manage my time, right? So you manage
Hmm.
your time well. So many hours doing this every day, so many hours doing that every day. And that's how I started. And then I did my first album was like pop adult contemporary, believe it or not.
Okay.
It was called Keys to the World. And I
Yeah.
wanted to always have positive message music for people.
Hmm.
Um, that was my whole goal, is to be a positive contribution to society.
Hmm.
And that's when I started. So that one has like my 5 octave range and Mariah Carey kind of tones, and all interesting stuff, but great music. And then I was inspired to do a holiday album. So I wrote with a friend who wrote some lyrics, and I wrote some music, and then I did some other arrangements and wrote some more music and put a holiday album together.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to get it on the radio. So I went down to the Musicians Union, and they gave me a list of who all the radio stations that play new age music and classical crossover kind of music, right? And most of
Hmm.
them are NPR stations. So I get on the phone and I start calling these stations, right?
Yeah.
And the first few stations, I didn't get a big response because I didn't say who I was. And then I said, well, let's try a different approach.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. I
So
like it.
here we go. So now I call up the people and I say, hi, I'm Darlene Koldenhoven. I'm a Grammy winner, and I am the artist, and I am doing my own promotion. And I think it's really important for me to build a relationship with the radio hosts, with you, so we can work together and have success for all of us.
Hmm.
Everybody called me back. Everybody.
They're like, oh my, oh, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean it. We didn't mean it.
They're all calling me back. It's because that was unusual. It's unheard of.
Yeah.
Usually you have a radio promoter doing that work for you.
That's right. That
You have
is
a
correct.
promoter.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
spend thousands of dollars with a promoter, but I did it myself.
You were something different, Darlene. I swear. It is refreshing to hear that this type of success can be done through sheer determination, sheer will, and hard work.
It's a just
And
determination.
absolutely making the right type of connection, meeting the right people who can
Yeah.
help you. But you have to put your foot down
Gotta
and
get out there.
yeah, you do. You reminded me like when I was on stage at the San Francisco Writer Conference, and everybody on stage for the most part had some sort of resume, and I have one too, but it wasn't extensive in a way that theirs was. But all I knew was I have just sheer determination and
That's
a
right.
will to just keep going
Yeah,
and outlast everybody.
that's
That's
right.
just, at least that's my mindset. And so hearing that from you is just, it's such a rewarding to hear that, because it lets me know that, hey, I'm on the right path. I'm on the right path to because when I created this platform or brought it back, I brought it back in a new style to be more educational to help people and
Yeah.
bring on different ones and just being the guests that I've been able to have onto the show. And I was real specific of I want people on here, not just like a brand new author who just wants to promote their book. No, I want more than that. I want somebody who has experience that they can share their story for it to inspire, because it's not only to educate, but it's to also inspire people too.
Exactly. That's what
And
I love to do.
yes, and so this has been just so rewarding, to be able to just sit back and talk to you and get and receive your insight and seeing that you're still going strong, doing it on your own and breaking doors down.
I'm still doing it.
Oh yes, and
Oh,
so
by the way, that album debuted #2 on the radio charts.
check you out. That's amazing. Yes, indeed. Look, all because and you didn't have a promoter, and I think
Oh,
that's probably a good thing because some people like to take
me.
money now for your records. Do you own the masters for the records, or do
I
they
own
like?
everything. No, I started my own record label. I couldn't get a deal with a major label, and and then when they CDs came out and you could make your own CD, I was like, bingo, I'm doing this myself. And so I started my own label.
That's wildly incredible. And
And I
that
had to
Grammy
learn,
that you won,
I had
did
to
you
learn.
win that? Oh, sorry.
No, no,
Sorry.
no. I had to learn how to get a trademark, and I had to learn how to do a business thing and how to put
Yeah.
a DBA together, doing business as and all the legal stuff. But I learned how. I asked questions, and I learned, and I
Hmm.
studied. I found books, and I did it myself. People can do it themselves.
Absolutely.
You
Be a
just
student of
gotta
the
have
game.
that determination, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And
You sure do.
you gotta be able to present.
Yeah.
People come in my studio for lessons, and I said, okay, sing something for me. Well, I'm a singer. Okay, great, sing something for me. And they go, well, what am I gonna sing? I don't know what to sing. No, you've got to have something to sing. I said, if you can't think of anything to sing, then start singing the national anthem.
And they couldn't do it.
A lot of them couldn't because they didn't know the national anthem. So first thing is I had to teach them the national anthem
No, for sure.
because
I think
it's not easy to sing.
no, and some people.
Can't think of anything, just
Yeah.
start there. But don't stand there. You can't let a second go by.
Right.
You have to be immediate so that the person like George Duke and Tom, whoa, you really can sing. I
Yeah.
mean when he said, let me hear you sing, same thing happened. I was a member of Chicago Symphony Chorus, and we did a concert, and the famous opera singer Beverly Sills was the diva of the day, right?
Hmm.
So I took a lunch, we broke after the rehearsal, and I took a lunch, sound check, and I took a lunch, ate my lunch backstage. So I'm very quietly minding my own business, just kind of wandering around backstage, and all of a sudden the door opens, and it's Beverly Sills.
Oh, wow.
What are you doing here?
Uh huh.
Well, I'm a member of the chorus. And she said, well, let me hear you sing. So I didn't miss a beat, and I went into this. I said, well, I just sang this big aria with the Chicago Symphony. She, how old are you? 19. Well, I just sang this big aria with the Chicago Symphony. Really? Okay, let me hear you sing. So I sang part of it right then and there, a cappella. Just sang it for her. And again, wow, you really can sing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. And you had that energy at the conference. That's what perked my antenna up, because I said, man, I like this guy's style. He's got a good vibe. He's got good energy, and that's why when I saw you, and I kept missing you in the elevators, remember?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I tried to talk to you, the doors closed. I couldn't get there fast enough. That happened like 2 or 3 times, and I thought, I
Hmm.
was so disappointed. I thought, well, I'm not going to meet this guy. And then I walk out, and there you are in the street. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is it, Darlene. You got to talk to this guy now or never.
No, I appreciate that too. It's interesting how that happened because my dad, he ended up going to Chinatown, but my wife, because we moved from California to Washington, there's a few things that we don't have here that we had in Cali, which one is Noah's Bagels, and she loved Noah's
Oh, yeah,
Bagels.
right.
And so I asked her, I said, hey, Noah's Bagels is close by. Would you like for me to get you, get some, put it in like freezing wrapping paper and then just
Yeah, yeah.
stash it away? So she said, yes. So I actually walked over there. And when I came back, my dad had already left to go to Chinatown.
Oh,
And I
no.
said, okay, I'll meet you over there. So I went and I dropped everything off. And then that's when I came back out. And then that's when we ran into each other again. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Yes, we finally get to talk because, goodness, and everything was moving so quick there. Speaking
Yeah.
of quick, is that the culture where you live at over in Los Angeles? Of bang, like everything is absolute. We go now. There's no sense of delay. It seems to be more of a sense of purpose over there. Is that pretty safe to assume?
Yeah, well, yes. In my circle, in the professionals, when you're working with the A team, LA has what we call the West Coast cool. So, you got to be cool. You can't,
Yeah.
like as much as I'm geeking out of my skins, because I sang with Pink Floyd and I love Pink Floyd, right?
Yeah.
And David Gilmour is standing next to me in the studio singing, and I'm trying not to go, my
Yeah.
idol, I'm trying not to do that. I got to be cool, Darlene, so, you got to be cool, but you got to be immediate.
Yeah.
The
Have to
professional.
have purpose
There's a cool, there's a laid back, there's a cool, but it happens instantly.
for sure.
When that red light's on, everybody puts on the A game and it's done,
Hmm.
And my reputation, because I could sight read so well too, my reputation was that I was a first or second take, mostly a first take kind of soloist, when I'd
Yeah.
walk in and do it. As a matter of fact, I don't know if we got a minute, but I got a real funny story about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all ears.
You sure? Okay.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Because I know we've been talking for a while, but okay, so I'm well seasoned, and the producer I'm working for knows that I have this really high whistle tone vocal range, right?
Hmm.
And he knows that I'm a first take kind of person, right? So I'm already at the mic. I'm early. I'm on time. I'm standing at the mic and waiting. And the engineer, this was his first time, kind of on the big board, in the studio. And he's like futzing around, plugging in chords and turning knobs and doing all kind of stuff. And the producer says to him, and I have the headphones on, so I can hear what they're talking about. And the producer says to him, "Come on, man, get it together, And he goes, "By the time she's warmed up, I'll have it together." And I
Yeah.
thought, uh-oh.
Uh-huh.
this brother needs a lesson, So
Yep.
I'm standing out there, and I heard this, and I think to myself, okay. So now, when I do those high whistle tones, I don't have to open my mouth. It's just like that,
Hmm.
So now I'm doing those high whistle tones, which to the engineers sounds like feedback. Feedback sounds like, right? Feedback. So now he's hearing all this feedback. And he goes and he's pulling chords and turning knobs. He's trying to figure, where's that feedback coming from? It wasn't happening before. Where's the feedback coming from? This guy's going nuts, right? And then I stop. And then he goes, "Well, that's odd. It just stopped." Well, okay. So he goes back to what he's doing, right? And then I let it rip again, And now he's like freaking out because it's
That's
happening.
awesome.
Where's it coming from? And he's tearing it all apart. The producer is behind him, laughing his butt off because the producer knows what I'm doing to this kid,
That's hilarious.
Stopped. Third time, I do it again. Right? Now he has every chord pulled out, completely disconnects, 24 tracks in the studio. He can't figure out where this is coming from. Finally, the producer's laughing so hard, he goes, "Dude, I told you."
Yeah.
She's a first take kind of gal. That's her voice. She's singing. Her voice? Yeah, that's her voice. She can sing like feedback way up high. He says.
That's incredible.
So now he had to put everything back together, but I'm telling you, it was worth the wait.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Lesson.
Yeah, he deserved that lesson. He deserved that. Speaking of lessons, I know that you also have experience with feature films too,
Oh yeah,
and yeah, like Sister Act and Sister Act 2. I also read where you did some music, provided music for The Matrix,
yeah.
and this is incredible. But so, what was it like for you? And I know we're probably getting a little short on time. I know I told you like no more than 45 minutes, so I apologize for keeping you a little
No,
longer.
I'm fine. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, no, same. So on Sister Act, my mom freaking loves Whoopi Goldberg. She grew up loving that woman. But what was that whole experience like with Sister Act for both of them for
Wow,
you?
that was great. Well, there's a cute story for that, how I got that job too.
Yeah.
So the music supervisor at Disney called me and he says, "We're thinking about doing a film turning hymns into girl group songs and girl group songs into hymns. So can you get a couple of women together, veterans, not young ones, middle-aged women together, and let's come into the studio. We're going to work with Mark Shaman, the composer, and we're going to figure out how to do all this stuff. Fine. So for me, it was just another day in the life of my studio work, right? So I go, get it together, we go this thing. We have a great time coming up with My God, nothing to take me away from my God, instead of my guy, right? Stuff like that. So fine. I'm thinking, okay, great. Now, a couple weeks later, I get a call, and it's the casting department. And I was on my way to another session, and the casting department says, can you come in and bring your headshot and your resume, because the director's thinking about adding some ringers, some real singers mixed into these actresses. I said, okay. So for fun, I knew the film was about nuns, but that's all I knew. And I knew nuns and I knew Whoopi, but that's all I knew.
Yeah.
So, as you found out, I can be kind of spunky. So I went home,
Oh, yeah.
washed my makeup off, put on the nun's habit I had from an opera I sang in college, right? But I just put the headpiece on over a long black dress, just the headpiece. And I go down to the casting office and I hand them and they looked at me and they didn't laugh, but they were like, wow. I was in there for maybe literally 2 minutes, and they said, thank you for dropping this off. Appreciate it. And I left. Again, I don't think anything of it, right? 2 weeks go by, and I'm on the way again to another session going the opposite direction from Disney Studio. I get the call again. The director wants to see you. Great. When? Now.
Oh.
Okay. And by the way, dress the same way. Okay. So I call up the session where I was supposed to be at, and I said, listen, got this opportunity. Can you hold off for an hour? And they go, yeah, anything for you, Darlene. We just want you here. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So I go home, wash the makeup up. Now I put the whole nun's habit on, right? I go tearing down to Disney Studio, and at that time I had a hot red Celica with the wraparound sunglasses. So the people seeing me are laughing their butts off, because here's this nun in a sports car tearing down.
Yeah.
Right? So I walk in, and here's the director and the producer, Scott Rudin, and everything, and some assistants. I walk into his room, and Emil is in the center of the room, and he says, wow. He goes, we heard you were really good at, motivating people and teaching people how to sing and all that kind of stuff. So we're thinking about, so we chatted for a while, right? So then he said, sit down, let's talk. So I sat down across his desk and we chat a little bit longer. And he says, now I understand, you're a top, 3-call studio singer, so you might not want to give away 6 weeks of your life for this film. And I said, what film? What are you talking about? He says, he says, in my whole career, he says, I've been looking for choir nuns all over the country for the last 3 months, auditioning women, hundreds and hundreds of them. And he says, we don't have anyone your height, I'm 5'10", or your look, and so we'd like you to be in this film. I said, well, what are you talking about? And he says, you don't know anything about this? I said, just nuns and Whoopi, that's all I know.
Yeah.
So then the whole story came out. And he says, first time in my career I've ever said to anybody, you're hired on the spot. That's awesome. Hired for what? And he says, but you may want to think about it. And I said, yeah, I do want to think about it. Now, thinking about it, I mean, really? I should have just said yes on the spot, but I said, nah, let me think about it, So I went home and I thought about it, and I said, I'll call you the next morning. So I called him the next morning and I said, yeah, I'll take the job,
That's awesome. And you put him on you made him wait.
Yeah, just a little bit.
That is bold. that's bold.
Yeah. But sometimes that's like, sometimes I think that's how you kind of have to roll.
Yep.
It's a respect thing in a way, and he already knew that I'd be giving up a lot to do the film,
For sure.
So that's how I got to do the film. And then I started rehearsing All the women, we rehearsed for about a month, I think, for about 3, 4 hours, 5 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
about a month. And that's an interesting story too. When we first did the song "Hail Holy Queen,"
Mm-hmm.
in the film, and you remember in the movie how they sounded kind of funky in the
Yep.
beginning. Well, when I walked in and heard the women that they had hired, they kind of were funky sounding because some
Mm-hmm.
didn't sing at all.
Yeah.
Two were on Broadway, had been on Broadway, and the rest had modicum amount of singing
I
experience.
see.
I had to really teach them how to sing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So one day, Mark Shaman and Emil Ardolino and Scott Rudin, they came in and they handed me a piece of music for Hail Holy Queen, a vocal chart. And
Mm-hmm.
they said, "Here, Darlene, just teach them how to lip sync, and we'll hire real singers to do the job."
Mm-hmm.
I look at my watch and it's about noon, and I said, "Guys, have you had lunch yet?" "No." "Well, tell you what. Why don't you guys go out for lunch? Come back in an hour. Let me play with the women here for an hour, and let's see what I can come up with." And they go, "Oh, okay, sure." So out they
Yeah.
go right to lunch. They come back in an hour, and I had taught that song and had all those women singing just like the good version you heard in the movie
The movie.
within an hour. And those guys, like their minds were blown. And it
Mm-hmm.
completely changed
Yeah.
their perception of how they were going to approach the movie and do the music.
Yeah.
Because they were, they thought just, lip sync. No. So now, by me doing that, we did all the women, we all sang all the music ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
which gives that movie its authenticity
Yep.
because those
That's
women
right.
really made that transition from a ragtag bunch to the choir, real
Yep.
singing bands.
Yep. What we see in the final product.
Yeah, and that's what really happened there. So that's
Yeah. I know what else really happened too was you going on that stage and getting that Grammy award. Now, I don't get many opportunities to actually talk to a Grammy winner, at least not right now. Maybe down the road, but like right now, I will take this opportunity just to ask what that must have felt like to to hear that you won. Also knowing that this is not only off of your back, the sweat and the tears, but you own it too. You own this stuff. Most of the winners, um, it's like it's there's a lot of hands in the pots. Now I'm sure you had a lot of help, but you own these records. So what must that have felt like for you at the time?
well, I didn't own those particular records because that was with
Oh, okay.
Claire Fisher. I was
Oh,
part of
okay.
his vocal group, right?
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, but that's okay. But so it was on whatever label he was on. It was a German label named Pausa or something like that at the time.
Hmm.
So well, because in that category, Osiris, it was best jazz vocal performance by duo or group. And in that category, it was always the group Manhattan Transfer, won year after year after year after year, right? Because
Hmm.
when we had the first two nominations and we didn't win, it was Manhattan Transfer that won, of course, right?
Hmm.
So this particular year that we won, guess what? Manhattan Transfer didn't put an album out. So it gave everybody else a shot, right? So that's how, we won.
That's that
You know,
window.
that was that window, and so I went up, with the group, and I made the thank you speech. It felt awesome. I mean, we couldn't believe it because
Hmm.
we were just thinking, oh, it's going to be Manhattan Transfer or something. But nope, they didn't put an album out that year. So that's how we won. And then you go backstage to the press room, and then the press people interview you again, you talk again, and stuff like that. And so
Yeah,
it was awesome. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was just tremendous to
for sure.
have that. I
But
feel so
that's
blessed and so privileged,
absolutely.
honored to be, part of that because not everybody wins a Grammy.
No, you're in that alumni section now with the other Grammy winners, and
Yeah.
and it just speaks to the tenacity of yourself. I mean, I know you had others with you, but like with you specifically, it could have easily been, no, this group they win all the time. You know what? I'm done. You know what? I'm just let me throw the towel in. Let's just do something else. Let's move on. Let's
Yeah.
just not worry about it. But you
Right.
kept going. You
That's
kept
right.
going. And that's the point of it all is
That's
to
right.
keep going. it's a marathon. It's never a sprint. And I think people
Right.
approach it in a sprint mentality, and
No,
they
you
can't
can't.
and they shouldn't. It's a
No.
game of stamina and endurance, and
That's
you outlast the competition. At some point, they're going to stop, and you keep going, and it'll be your time. And that's what happened. And it sounds like it's still happening for you to this day
yeah.
with the success that you continue. You're still working in music. You're writing a memoir, or at least that's the category that it's going to fall under. But
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
different topic. But you're still going.
Yeah.
You still, with all the success that you've had and with everything that you've done, there's still a desire to continue to create, which
Right.
speaks to your character. And you're also someone who teaches too. It's
Yeah.
not that, hey, I'm putting out music, my love, and I'm writing books, but you're also teaching. So you're providing a service to people. And that just speaks, that's just wonderful and is admirable of you. Yeah. So I'll ask one more question
Yeah.
and then I'll let you go. How can people find you?
The easiest way is go to my website, darlenekoldenhoven.com. So I'll spell it out: DarleneKoldenhoven, darlenekoldenhoven.com. And on the first page there, you'll see, the Yanni videos and then, all that kind of stuff. Scroll down to the bottom, and there's a contact, form you can fill out, and then it comes directly to me, and that's how they can get a hold of me. Just fill that out. Please fill it out, be on my mailing list. You'll be, I don't send stuff out a whole lot, but when I have a new product, new book, which is coming out, I hope, yay!
Yay!
And a new album. I'm going to have a new album in between all of this too. So, but it just lets people know, once in a while. And so, or social media, please. I'm on all the platforms, like and subscribe. I have a YouTube channel where you can watch all my videos and all that kind of stuff too. So please, I would really, it means a lot to me to meet new people and hear from fans, and I do respond to everybody. So I actually do the responding. So
Yes, it's not a bot. It's not a hired publicist. It's
it's
her
not a
doing
bot
it.
or somebody else. I do it all myself. That's my thing. I do it all myself.
Yeah, there's a common theme here. You've been doing it your way, this way, the
Yeah.
entire time, and you found success. You don't
Yeah.
have to rely on other people.
No, just do it yourself.
Yeah.
Get and the theme that runs through my whole memoir is from that, why I call the memoir "Put Your Dress Down and Sing,"
Hmm.
is because psychologically, to overcome an emotion, you have to take an action.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. Because a lot of times people think, oh, I'm not in the mood. I don't feel like it. I want to give up or this or that or whatever, No, 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 no. Don't keep sitting there going down your spiraling rabbit hole going down, Get up and take some action. Do something, you know. Take out a book, read an article, whatever it is, Go eat because maybe your blood sugar's low. But I mean,
Yeah.
you got to take an action. And once you take that action, your mood changes, your vibe changes, the whole thing
Yes.
starts to change. So that's the thing. It's not like, I'm not a Pollyanna or anything. I mean, I have moods just like everybody else does, but I know how to get out of my mood.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
I know how to get out of my own way, and that's, something I learned as a kid.
Hmm.
Darlene, put your dress down and sing. So that got over my shyness, and I sang. And guess what? It changed me, right?
Yes.
So that's why I'm encouraging people to don't give up on your dream. Sometimes it might take longer. It took longer for me, because everybody think. I remember when I turned 25, I was bummed because, oh no, I'm too old to get a record deal, you know.
Yeah.
But the next year is when I met all of those people, and that started because I didn't give up. I
Right.
just kept pursuing my dreams. So that's
I
what I
love
have to
that.
say to people listening to this. Discipline yourself, organize
Hmm.
yourself, prepare yourself, be smart, have a job so you get financial support, and don't give up on your dreams.
Oh, perfect. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Now, normally when I close out the show there's like jazz music that's playing, but because you own your records, you know the song I really love, "Remember Me." Am I able to play that song as a closeout to this? Would you be okay with
Absolutely.
that? Okay,
Totally.
no, that's perfect. So remember me, and I'm going to also link every link that she's referencing into the description of these videos. And specifically, I want people to listen to the song "Remember Me," um, especially all the people who have military affiliation. I think that song will hit you all really hard. So yes, her website I'll put into to the description of this video and of this podcast episode. I will also include her social media links. It's going to all be
Thank you.
constant hit. Oh, of course. Of course, you're welcome. Where you all can find her work, and I'll also put her book in there as well. If you have a interest in wanting to do songwriting or just want to be in that avenue, check out
I'm
her
saying,
or learn how
yeah,
to
right.
sing. Yeah, reach out to Darlene. She does respond back and purchase her book as well. Yep, I know there's a price tag behind it, but it could be a lot more, and you get what you pay for, and it's comprehensive, so it's well worth the purchase. But this episode is going to be available on a multitude of platforms: YouTube, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, LinkedIn, Substack, Threads. You'll also get it on my website at osiriskinkpublishing.com. I'll also send out snippets of this episode to my email newsletter on my emails newsletter. And this is going to be available in audio on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts,
Wow.
iHeartRadio, and there's always some
Cyrus,
that
you
escape
really
me.
got it going. You got it going, man. I love it.
Oh yeah, yes indeed. So, they well, thank you
I
so
love
much
it.
for your time, Darlene. So much, 60 minutes worth of it. And I'm going to really cherish
Oh,
this. Thank you. It
thank
didn't feel like it either. It went by really quick.
right? Exactly.
Thank you so much. Well, hey,
When the book comes out, I hope you'll have me back again.
oh, I'd love to have you back on the show. Yeah, for sure. And
Right.
yeah,
You're
no,
great.
thank you so much. I really
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye,
Yes, ma'am.
everybody.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Hey, you all take care. Have a wonderful remainder of your day, and I'll catch you next time.
Will you remember me whenever I'm gone?